Welcome to this training. Today we're going to talk about how to become literally superpowered. Now, the first question is, what if becoming superpowered was possible? We all love this idea that some people are special. It reflects a deep intuitive truth that different people have different capabilities. We're not all the same despite what your liberal education taught you. We're definitely not equal. There's no such thing as equality in nature. Some people do certain things better. Some people can run faster than other people. Some people are just naturally stronger. It's fine. And that's one of the reasons that we love this idea of superpowered individuals. Now, if you ask someone to name a superhero, they can probably name dozens. Batman, Superman, Goku, Wolverine, uh, Homelander, all of these things. These are people who are subject of popular media, movies, TV shows, comic books, and even music videos. But there's a difference between reality and fantasy. Humans can't break normal physics, but we can train unique abilities. And that's what this video will teach you. Now, first, why become superpowered? Always start with why, have motivation. Superpowers equals capabilities. It's the ability to achieve more, to contribute more, and to, most importantly, inspire more. Now, the world thrives on historic and heroic people. You think about all the great societies, they all had heroes. They had people they looked up to. The Bronze Age had people like Achilles. After that, there was Alexander the Great. In the more modern age, there are people like Napoleon, Otto von Bismarck, these sorts of people. On the other hand, societies decay when everyone becomes a bystander, when everybody shirks the responsibility of greatness and just goes with the flow, tries to fit in, becomes a sort of bug man. So, and that's kind of where we're at now, is everybody's trying to fit in. They're always worried about what other people think. Nobody wants to stand out and be great. And as a result, we kind of have this cultural lethargy, and we really need to get over that. And that's what I'd like to encourage you to do. Now, there's this sort of myth of over specialization, this sort of one superpower fallacy. But in reality, success is created by doing lots of things right. It's the opening line of Anna Karina, right? It's like all happy families are the same, but every unhappy family is unhappy in a different way. So you have to do a lot of things right to succeed. It's not just doing one thing, it's a combination of doing many things correctly. So somebody with one skill is kind of rare, right? It's good to have one skill, but they're not necessarily capable or exceptional. And I always think of this guy on like TikTok who like makes the videos of like grabbing lighters really fast. And yeah, he's fast as fuck, right? He's faster than I am in terms of his twitch muscles grabbing stuff off desks. But what does he do with it? He's making TikTok videos. Very lame. So it's not really he has like one unique capability, but it's so unrounded that it allows him to do nothing. And the same thing with like looks maxing, right? Looks maxing does not boil down to just fixing one thing. It's a lot of small 5% improvements. Things like gaining muscle, losing weight, improving your posture, better grooming, skincare, hunter eyes, maybe a hair transplant. But obsessing over just one factor quickly has diminishing returns. And you even see this with looks maxing. Like guys who just focus on their looks, they definitely improve their opportunities in life up to a certain point. Whenever you get to the point of like clavicular, where you're obsessing about like the shape of your nose and things like that and getting surgeries for no reason, there's it gets to a certain point where like just improving your looks more is not going to improve your life more. So you quickly approach diminishing returns. And skills work much the same way. Like, sure, it's good to be strong, but at a certain point, adding even more strength isn't going to, improve your capabilities in a proportional sort of sense. Now, Homer had this great line where he says, "The pentathlete is the most beautiful of the athletes because he suffers from none of the defects of specialization." And a pentathlete was somebody who did five different sports. So, somebody who is well rounded, who does many different types of activities, they become very balanced and they achieve a sort of harmony. Compared to somebody who only does one thing, they become very unbalanced and they don't have that sort of harmony. And you even see this with classical superheroes. Think of somebody like Spider Man, right? He doesn't just have one ability, he has strength, speed, agility. He can stick to walls, he shoots webs, he has a spider sense, and he kind of engineers all of his equipment. Same thing with Batman, right? Great fighter, genius technologist, super rich, kind of a cad. He has many different things going for him. It's just not one thing. Superman, the same way, shoots lasers, flies impenetrable skin, strength, speed, blows whatever cold air he does. I don't know. My point is that there's very rarely is there a superhero with just one skill, that sort of thing. So we have to apply this to real life. And we have this real world superpower set. Now, I've thought a lot about this. I have maybe like 40 different skills here, broken them down into three different domains: the mind, the body, and social domains. And even within these, like cognitive ability, things like knowledge, enhanced memory, ultra learning, polyglottism, perceptiveness, strategic thinking, creativity, intuition, engineering, intellect, technomancy. There's many different real world skills that we can develop. And obviously, you're not going to be able to do all of this, but it's important to have some balance, like I said. And more importantly, all of these things can be developed, right? These are all things you can train. You can become more accurate over time. Like, it's not one of these things that you are just born with a certain power level of accuracy and then that's it. Same thing, I put extrasensory awareness, this kind of awareness of energy, awareness of vibe, that sort of thing. This is something you can develop over time. Enhanced immunity, right? If you take care of yourself, I don't get sick. I can't remember the last time I was sick, quite honestly. Actually, I do remember I got COVID because I was working 7 days a week, literally for months on end, and getting very poor sleep. And I got COVID, and I used it as an opportunity to take a few days off. Took 4 days off, went back to work. It was fine. But you take care of yourself and you can do that. Same thing, sovereign wealth, you can work on your assets, things like this. Now, the important thing to remember is that you're not going to be able to develop all of this, but they also have a sort of synergy, right? Excellence comes from synergy and balance. What you need to avoid is narrow development. You don't want to be like the slow hulking gym bro or the feeble empath who has no physical capabilities, or the sort of fighter who lacks social courage and social intelligence. Now, think of somebody like a lot of people, high level people, they combine skills. Like an elite entrepreneur combines intelligence, emotional regulation, adaptability, persuasion, social acuity, and social capital. An elite athlete combines physical abilities, discipline, confidence, and agency. But there are some caveats with this, right? First of all, you can't max out every stat. There's simple reasons. You have limited time, you have to work, you have to go to school, you have to maintain relationships, and there are such things as biological predispositions. Somebody who's 5'6" is not going to have the superpower of jumping very high. It is what it is, it's fine. Natural aptitudes matter. Childhood experiences shape attitudes, genetics influence learning speeds, so you should really try to lean into existing strengths. And some traits also stack together. There's natural spillover. Having enhanced strength increases resilience. Likewise, there's complementary traits. Having courage kind of equals also having emotional regulation. And there's multifaceted traits. So, agency, for example, overlaps with other traits. And I wrote a whole book about being high agency, so I'll put the link for that in the description. But the important thing, what I want you to remember, is that you need to focus on building your own skill tree. So, first, how do you do that? You choose an avatar. Instead of mastering everything, select 8 to 10 complementary skills. Build towards a specific archetype. For example, celebrity. A celebrity combines beauty, grace, charisma, persuasiveness, agency, and focus. An entrepreneur focuses on wealth, strategic thinking, networking, adaptability, emotional regulation, and knowledge. A soldier or a fighter combines courage, strength, endurance, resilience, speed, and marksmanship. They need to train deliberately. Each attribute requires specific actions to build it, right? You're not going to become stronger by reading books. You're going to go to the gym to do that. You're not going to become more knowledgeable by going to the gym. You're going to talk to people. You're going to meet new people, get experience, read things, educate yourself. So, strength comes from consistent gym training. Focus comes from meditation, breathing exercises. Knowledge comes from reading books, going places, having conversations, diving into tutorials, and applying the knowledge. So you really need to focus, you really need to have focused improvement. A very common mistake is trying to improve everything at once, and the result is mediocre progress everywhere. Instead, you need to apply the Benjamin Franklin method. Work in phases. Focus on one area while maintaining others. So, in practice, this might be focusing on one thing each week, using habit tracking, daily reflection, and just being consistent over the long term. You need to trust that focus iteration will compound over time. It's also important to build systems, right? What this means is you're going to track your progress. What gets measured improves. Actually track the metrics of what sort of actions you're taking and their sort of results you're getting. You'll start to notice patterns. Repeated habits will become durable traits over time. Most people, however, they lack a system. They start and they stop. There's no consistency and they rely on motivation. It's not a surprise that they don't really they're kind of waiting to feel good to do the thing rather than doing the thing regardless of how they feel. High performers, on the other hand, they measure what they're doing, they review their performance, and they iterate, they improve over time. They're kind of seeing if the results are getting them what they want, and if not, they start to adjust things. So, just in conclusion here, you need to focus on becoming, not necessarily performing, because becoming superhero is not occasional greatness. It's repeated excellence, durable habits, and over time, identity transformation. So I'd really encourage you to build yourself into someone extraordinary. Superhuman abilities are neither granted nor inherited, they're accumulated through practice. Develop multiple complementary abilities. In order to do that, you must build systems that allow you to develop those abilities. As part of those systems, you're going to practice consistently. And then over time, people will mistake the results of your discipline for natural ability. So I hope you enjoyed this training. Again, this is how to become superpowered. I'll post the link in the description for my book on being high agency. I also just created a habit tracking app. Obviously I've really into habit tracking and this sort of stuff. So it's fully featured. It helps you see what you're doing, the progress you're making, and really align yourself towards one sort of goal. Maybe in the next video, I'll go into more detail about that and show you how I use that myself to become super powered. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.